Testing, testing.
Hello.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Cold Drop Shard, and welcome to Samsung KX, and the first of our live conversations for this amazing new development for Graduate Fashion Foundation. I have to say it is just such an overwhelming thrill to be here. When we think back 6 months ago, when there were 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or maybe more students in tears, distraught because they couldn't finish their collections, we didn't have a graduate fashion week. But look what has been achieved. It is so amazing, and big thanks to Cold Drop Shard and to Samsung and our other sponsors for making this all possible, and for making the class of 2020, for making their dreams come true, because here we have a showcase of future talent, and I hope they all get brilliant jobs because of this. I'm here tonight with Lindsay Lowe, who is the founder of Duck Productions, nothing to do with eggs. Sorry, Lindsay, that just slipped out like an egg, actually. And Duck Productions have been involved with Graduate Fashion Foundation for several seasons, and they really are an amazing company. Lindsay, tell me what exactly you do as an agency.
Okay, so we make an awful lot of content, as you know. We've seen you for many years on the fashion kind of scene. The company turned 10 this year, and on average, I think we do around 100 projects a year. And inside each of those projects, we might be making now up to, seriously, about 50 films, because we make so many films, and then we use cut downs and teasers and all sorts of things in various shapes and sizes. So we're an agency, a small boutique agency, that create a lot of visual content, digital content.
Right. And it's mainly film, video.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
not for advertising. I mean, is it all promotional, or?
I mean, I guess I guess we like to look at it as super duper creative work, but I mean, every single piece that we create has a purpose behind it, a message behind it, or it's advertising something. Essentially, it's a sales tool. But yes, so we create an awful lot of content. We go out, we have a whole bunch of people that are able to shoot. I used to shoot myself, but I don't anymore. Technology has grown more and more so, and I do more of kind of the back end now. I still go out and produce and direct. I still see you on set and on shoots everywhere, so I still really enjoy doing that. But we've got a really good core of people that go out and film. So we film everything. We have our own camera kit, lights, audio equipment, drone, whatever that is that we kind of need.
So you're like a kind of mini Hollywood.
Oh, that's a nice description, yeah.
Or London's answer to Steven Spielberg.
That's even nicer. Yeah, so we go out, we film everything, we bring it back in, and then we have wonderfully talented editors like Greg, who stitched together our finale film tonight. So we kind of we don't take it out of house, we kind of keep it all in-house. And yeah, 1 week we could be shooting on, well, you'll see from our show reel when we play it in a second, actually, we're mostly fashion.
Right.
And I guess, obviously, that's why we're here tonight. So I would say still kind of 80% of what we film is fashion related. So whether that's with talent or influencers or brands, shoe brands, accessory brands, labels, hair, makeup, beauty, or whether it's just something completely different. So we film for a lot of brands that want to be seen in a fashion space. So, you know, when we're at London Fashion Week, we have all sorts of kind of different brands, drinks brands, and, you know, delivery brands and car brands that kind of want to be seen in that space as well. So we film for an awful lot of people, or it might be for magazines or newspapers, but all in that sphere of fashion, mostly. We do other things, you'll see in the show reel.
And it's all visual excitement, really.
It is visual excitement. It's nice to see the show reel up there, actually.
Let's have a look at the show reel. I can't wait for you guys to see some of the imagery. It'll blow you away. Where's that?
nice to see it like that, actually. So yeah, you get a scope of kind of what we do. So most of it is fashion, but obviously we've got all sorts in there. We've got lobsters and cocktails in with, Stella McCartney and Victoria Beckham. And
And the wonderful sort of coastline and sea and beaches.
beautiful. Yeah, that was
Ibiza or?
that was Ibiza. We did a big shoot in Ibiza for an entire week. With a drone and lots of cameras, and we saw sunsets and we saw sunrises, and we watched guys cliff dive, and we raced a couple of yachts out there, and worked with a Jeep company to drive ourselves round in Ibiza, and then shared the content with those guys. So yeah, we get to see some pretty interesting things and to meet some pretty interesting people, but most of that, as you will see, was kind of fashion content.
Right.
And there was everything in there, from campaigns for people like Charlotte Tilbury. Hackett was the guy that was rowing. Some was shot here, and then half of it was actually shot over in LA. So that was a really beautiful campaign for Hackett a few years ago. You saw tons of London Fashion Week footage in there.
Yeah. And the British Fashion Awards.
British Fashion Awards, stunning footage from the British Fashion Awards, which is held at, we'll have to see what happens this year, but normally held at
Albert Hall.
Yes, absolutely, just amazing.
Yeah.
So the depth that you can get, and we have an enormous amount of cameras there. I think it went up to 11 at one point, with huge jib cameras that would sweep up and get these beautiful shots up towards the Albert Hall. And then you saw a gorgeous shot of Gigi Hadid, which just has this depth behind her, and the colours kind of pop. And that was a big jib shot on a big crane that kind of captures all of that. And then we have people just running ground and kind of, this is strange because it's normally me interviewing you for things for clients. So yeah, phenomenal amount of footage. So that's kind of what we do.
Now, before Duck Productions, you were working with Simon Fuller.
Yeah.
Was that mainly kind of music vids or?
Do you know, it wasn't
to do
actually,
with music.
Yeah, no, I know that's what he's famous for. So he's famous, right, for Spice Girls and Pop Idol, that then turned into, still, I think, one of the biggest grossing TV shows of all time. So he kind of eventually sold that proposition, but I worked at his company, which was then 19 Entertainment, for a couple of years. I'd worked in TV for kind of like 9-10 years before that, and I'd always wanted to work in TV since I was really small. Watching outtakes of programs like Absolutely Fabulous with Jennifer Saunders and Joanna Lumley, and just thinking, gosh, they're having a really good time, aren't they? And that's what I want to do. And it looked a lot of fun and kind of quite glamorous and different. So yeah, I worked in TV for kind of 9-10 years, and then I went to Simon Fuller's, and actually this is like 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And actually back then, when I moved from TV, I think one of the last shows that I worked on was Strictly Come Dancing. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of done tons and tons of daytime
When
TV.
you say you worked on it, I mean, were you actually filming, or were you like a director, or?
Producing. So
yeah.
So when I first started in TV, when you first start, you're kind of a bit of a dog's body. You kind of do, whatever you can to kind of get into the industry, make tea.
What, like Midsummer Murders, or?
Midsummer Murders. I love Midsummer Murders. Yeah, you kind of just work your way up from runner to researcher and then assistant producer and producer. So I did lots of that and lots of different daytime TV shows and some food shows, and then some kind of shiny floor Saturday shows, which was amazing. So the breadth of kind of what I was working on then, I think, stood me in really good stead for what we do now, because I was working on shows like This Morning, where you'd have perhaps a really serious human interest item, and some guests to look after of that nature, and then you'd have a music guest at the end. You might have an author coming on, you might have a fashion item, you might have a cookery item. I used to do gardening and all sorts. So, every single week when you're working on magazine shows like that, you don't know what's going to come out of it. You might meet somebody that you've always admired for a long time, and you have to write an awful lot to give to the presenters.
Yeah.
So you're writing biographies, you're constantly reading books. Again, it's a wonderful job because, if somebody was coming on from a film, you'd get to see the film, or a theatre production, and you'd get to go and see the theatre production. So, it was an amazing life for me, really, working in TV. So I kind of clocked all of that up, and then went to work for Simon. And actually, when I worked for Simon's company, it was started by one of the founders of Net-a-Porter. Mm-hmm. So this is where I kind of began just shooting a lot of fashion, basically. And it was an internet site. And like I said, this is 12, 13 years ago, when everybody that was kind of working back in TV said, oh, what show are you working on now? What are you doing now? And I was saying, I'm making content for the internet. And they were kind of like, oh. And it was, it doesn't sound like that long ago, but it was quite hard to sell at that point. And YouTube content was even quite different in those days. It was kind of much more user-generated, whereas, they've gone full pelt and cleaning it all up, and, there's nothing basically you can't watch on there at really high production levels. So, we started to make content for the internet, which was all fashion-related, and again, a joyous job. So we kind of traveled the world, and we filmed with designers, fashion brands, just basically collecting all of this content that was then to feed into this website that essentially sold clothes. So it just became an entertainment tool and a sales tool at the same time. So the longer you can keep people kind of entertained in that website, they're shopping off the back of it.
Yeah.
They're learning about a brand, or we're filming with a designer that talks about, the ethos behind the brand and their story about how they created it. So, it was...
So it was kind of combining all the things in a way that you'd been involved in with TV, like the interviews or the backstory,
Yeah, exactly. It was combining all of that, meeting new people all the time, going out to film in different locations in different countries, interviewing people and just trying to get the best out of people on camera. And then overseeing the edit kind of process, so bringing it back and creating that story, which should come, kind of from the start, really. You go out to shoot to know what you're gluing together sometimes. Depends how organised people are. And then you glue it all back together. And so we were making content then for that website for a couple of years. It disbanded. And I thought, okay, do I go back to TV? But within those couple of years, we really saw at an accelerated pace a need for content. People's thirst for content within those 2 years was quite amazing. So I thought, okay, we'll buy a camera and a laptop and just throw it onto a credit card and see what I can do within 3 to 6 months. And if it all goes to pot and I don't, get
Why
the
was
work
it
out of
important for you to have your own agency? Because it sounds as if you had, the world was your oyster in a way.
Yeah, maybe I'm romanticising it more than it was. I did kind of chock in as many... Wait to see how this sounds. So guys are quite tall and large in production, and I was living in quite a small flat, and so I got to a bursting point where I needed to take an office where I couldn't fit any more kind of 6 foot something gents in there to produce all of the work. But so it was tough. It was tough starting a business, and I didn't know which way it was going to go. I think I just saw a need for digital content, and I saw something that I found really exciting, even though people were just kind of getting used to it then. And people were just, it's not even that long ago, but people were just starting to consume more and more and more on their phone, and to look at their websites as being more important. And you would even just see, physically kind of outside, you look around here and we've got obviously screens everywhere, but you go up the tube now and you've got screens everywhere, or moving bus stops, Piccadilly Circus. This digital content is everywhere. So we could kind of just see a growth, and actually from working in filming content for Simon before, I'd met British Fashion Council that obviously super well, that run London Fashion Week, and they were one of the first clients that said, look, we really need a lot of content for Fashion Week. And so we kind of hit the ground running, and then Simon was one of our first clients as well. So he was looking after lots of people like David and Victoria, and we were doing all sorts of things with Jerry Halliwell and travelling to all sorts of places, and creating content for him. It just snowballed really quickly. I mean, I did work very hard to meet and greet everybody and try and just, sell our services absolutely everywhere and get people enthused about it. So it took time, but...
Did you have to mortgage your flat or borrow money from your parents? Or?
No, I didn't. I threw the initial cost onto a credit card, and I thought, okay, well, worst case scenario, we'll see how this goes. Just bought things on a credit card, basically. The camera kit is expensive, and a laptop, and kind of just went from there and hired in a lot of gear that I couldn't afford to kind of to buy at the time. And so, we started to work with British Fashion Council early on, and then because you know what it's like at Fashion Week, because we work with so many brands at Fashion Week, sometimes we're shooting up to 10, 12 shows or events a day. We might start at 8 o'clock in the morning and finish at 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and the rest.
So quickly we became known in that sphere, and through BFC and through Simon and through, collecting together a lot of really yummy stuff for our show reel. It was then easier to go back to people and say, hey, once you've got examples of what you can do, you can kind of go then and give it to somebody else and say...
Why the name Duck?
So I'm from a place called Stoke-on-Trent up north.
There's a what?
It's up north. It's actually in the Midlands, called Stoke-on-Trent, and everybody calls each other duck there as a term of endearment.
Oh, right.
Hey up, me duck.
Yes.
No.
I never thought of it like.
No.
I was thinking of, whack, 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 whack.
Oh yeah, I mean as in the feathered variety of duck. I guess in some parts of the country they call each other hen and things.
You're okay, Doc. Yeah.
All right, duck. You get it a lot in Manchester and I think parts of Nottingham and Leicester. I won't really know.
Coronation Street. I think.
Yes, up there, duck.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, me duck, which is great if you forget people's names. You just call them duck, which happens a lot on set, especially if there's a lot of people.
Now, we're now going to see one of your daily highlight films for London
yeah.
Fashion Week.
Yeah, so this is
Would
interesting.
this be the first London Fashion Week
No, I think
that you
this
did
one,
officially, or
I can't remember where this one's pulled. Maybe it's even 2016 or 2017 or 2018.
Yeah.
I looked at a few. But we were going to show this just because this gives kind of like a really good indication of what we were shooting and, all these shows you would attend
Yeah.
and we would see you around.
I mean, sometimes
As it
10
was.
a day.
Yeah, phenomenal amount. So over 5 days we would film, 50 or 60 shows, runway shows or presentations in some form. So by the end of it, we're kind of a bit sozzled. But this is a good example of a piece of content that we would turn around very quickly. We would go and film at all of these shows. And we would run around and we would interview people like yourselves, ambassadors, celebrities, whoever we could get, designers to kind of talk and talk about how wonderful London is, how creative London is, how amazing the fashion is in London. And so we would produce these pieces of content every day. And this is a nice look back to how we used to do it, because obviously we've just had a season where it's all changed.
Yeah.
And we're doing things very differently. So I think we've got another film after that to show you what the twist on kind of Fashion Week is now, which is interesting.
It's
There's always such excitement around London Fashion Week. So many of these designers fill important design houses the world over. When you see pieces of vintage from Christian Lacroix, you can actually wear them. It's been like a dream come true.
We've used fabric that already exists, so reaching out to the community of designers across London to see if they have any fabrics that they're not using. The collection is a patchwork of all those different personalities.
Innovation comes in all shapes and sizes, so we're really proud to be a platform for that.
We need to reset.
To get this party proper started, or restarted so to speak.
Us designers churning out product after product, it just doesn't feel relevant anymore.
Sustainability is an emergency. We have to take action now.
I want to actually do less, but do it more deeply.
for the catwalk.
I know. So yeah, so there were 2 films back to back there. The first one, which is obviously all of the delicious shows, and that gorgeous Richard Quinn show, which was just amazing. So you turn up to kind of 10 locations within a day. You might be outside, you might be at an art gallery, you're in the V&A, or out on a lawn in a car park. Anywhere basically that they feel like showing, or a church, glorious kind of places. And so obviously that was all about the physical event back then, and everybody would show their wares in either a form of a presentation or a runway, or doing something kind of spectacular. And the second film was actually of the season, June just gone. So that was really typical, and you can see the content's just become a little bit shorter as well. But that was basically us recording and taking screen grabs and captures and seeing what everybody's doing digitally online. So instead of perhaps seeing 10 to 12 shows a day, and as editors and as journalists, you go to as many as you possibly can. It's sitting in front of a screen more so now. I mean, we were just talking and you said that you're going to 2 or 3 shows physically over the next few days, which is a delight. We're filming a couple, 2 or 3 physical events over the next kind of 4 days, but as opposed to like maybe 40 to 50 that we normally do. It's a phenomenal reduction, and that's obviously because we're in the middle of a pandemic. But so everything's just become very much more digital, and people have slots now that shows would typically be every hour on the hour, but people have slots now in the schedule that are every 15 minutes. So, it's a real kind of bombardment of a visual feast coming through, and people can choose what they want to do for those 15 minutes. So, some people may take a panel talk and talk about something that they find is really kind of pressing of the moment. We've got a lot of talks about, diversity and sustainability and positive fashion. So some amazing conversations and wonderful conversations kind of come out of it. Some people choose to show, so there are a couple that kind of showed somehow physically, or people will make films. Like we're going to see tonight for Graduate Fashion Week. So we can shoot and then show a film at your showing. Some people are just talking and addressing their audience and taking conversations. So it's a real kind of melee of what we're seeing. So when we start with Fashion Week tomorrow, is it tomorrow? Tomorrow.
Yeah, I think there might be some kind of strange off-piste event tonight, but
yeah, possibly. I think Burberry started earlier, didn't they? But yeah, over the next few days, there's just going to be so many events every 15 minutes to see, and it's just, it gives people a chance to just portray what they want to portray and message how they want to message.
I think the wonderful thing about fashion film is that for a young designer, particularly, especially, a graduate showing their first collection, to actually stage a full catwalk show with models and hair and makeup and lighting, etc., is actually fiendishly expensive.
Yeah.
But if you can afford some mannequins and an interesting venue
and a presentation of sorts,
and a presentation, and then you bring in somebody like Duck, they can film it and it looks like, wow, the Oscars. Well, not quite the Oscars, but you know what I mean? It looks like...
Yes, yeah. For designers that are starting out, particularly difficult, but I think, we're just increasingly ingenious in ways that we are showing and expressing ourselves. So young designers now have cameras. They're filming on kind of small cameras. Everybody's just so good with cameras these days, and kind of publishing themselves. You've got so many more places to kind of publish. It's websites, it's Instagram, it's YouTube, so it's amazing from that perspective that they've already got that platform that didn't exist years ago. So they can use that, film themselves, use their friends to model what they're in, or be part of a kind of a bigger thing, which is great. And that's how they're marketing themselves these days. So yeah, it's super expensive to get to a show level, but I'm sure tons of these very, very talented guys will. But yeah, it's.
I think we've got another film coming up from
yes,
London Fashion Week.
I'll show you another quick one. So the use of influencers or celebrities, however you like to kind of call it, really, is.
Or is this the Billy Porter one?
It is, yeah. So quite often during Fashion Week, we get to meet and greet very interesting people. And he was over from America a couple of seasons ago whilst we were still out filming. And each day we would take a different ambassador and we would follow them around Fashion Week and see what shows they go to and see what they get up to. And I mean, he's just an amazing character. There's a full film that's like 4.5 minutes that we made because he is so entertaining. But this is just a teaser that we then place onto places like British Fashion Council, London Fashion Week website that will, hopefully hook you in to go and watch the full film.
You can see the whole thing.
God, I love London. I also love the accent. Is this Trafalgar Square? Hey. If you wanna be the girl in the picture, spotted dick. These have me changing in cars and
Oh, I need some coffee and a sandwich. Looking at all these fashion people.
My jacket ain't even on right. You ain't supposed to be inside. People who need people.
A crazy character.
God, I love London.
Amazing. So yes, Sabrina, one of our producers, got to spend the day riding around in a car with Billy and listening to him sing and find everything that was British quite amusing, like Spotted Dick and fish and chips. And he's just amazing and spent the day eating and singing. So again, a bit of a glorious job. I mean, it is, you know, it's a long old day. Maybe she started at like 7, getting into the office to be, you know, wherever she needed to be at kind of 7:30.
Yeah.
I think she was probably still filming then until, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock in the evening. Then we bring all that content back in and then magic editors start to glue it all together. So we pre-pick the music and the graphics and the tone, and we work with the client to know what it should be like. And that was, you know, the idea of that was fun and creativity around London as it was.
Do you have any favourites?
In terms of people
like
who we've
personalities
worked
or celebrities who've just been so easy to film?
Do you know what? It's going to sound really cheesy, but absolutely everybody that we meet is really, really lovely. You know, from working in TV for 9-10 years, it's fair to say that you do see some difficult characters. And yeah, I think I worked on some crazy shows where I met actually some of the most, you know, my kind of favourite artists, singers, authors, a lot. Was super, super lucky. But in the world of fashion, everybody is just genuinely very, very lovely. You know, it's an industry that I kind of turned to and started to film, and the creativity that exists in this industry is unbelievable. You know, the work that people go to and care about, and the hours of work of which they put in to create something that is their expression is phenomenal. So genuinely, it's always kind of a pleasure. It's lovely, you know, it's lovely meeting all kinds of people, whether they're artists, singers, designers, people wearing the brands.
Did it change your attitude to clothes, to what you wore yourself? Seeing so many collections and so many, you know, graduate ideas.
Yes, it does. It's
Did you
incredible.
become more daring, do you think? Or?
I don't know. I'm probably not the best example. I'm always dressed in black. But that's been production for you. Yeah, so for example, my coat's from Mother of Pearl, and we've actually been, I mean, if anybody doesn't know Mother of Pearl, they're an incredible brand, headed up by a lady called Amy Powney.
Yeah.
And they try and make things in the most sustainable way, and she's really gaining traction. She has a column for Vogue, and kind of that brand's trajectory has kind of been going.
And she also linked up with the BBC and
she did
Blue Planet, David Attenborough's series.
Yeah, she did an amazing collection where they were looking at different ways to dye. So the dyeing process within fashion is a very filthy process, and fashion industry, you know, we all kind of realise has got room for improvement. And so, yeah, so she was looking at the dyeing process, and they'd come up with some crazy process where they were extracting DNA from animals and creating that colour in a natural way. That would stick to the clothes. So we actually went. So we've been filming a documentary with Amy Powney for almost 4 years now, and actually one of our producers is over in Turkey right now filming on a cotton farm. So that's been a very, very mind-expanding project into looking at how we can shop more sustainably and create clothes more sustainably. So that's been an amazing journey. I would say that that's affected me and the team and everybody that we work with in the most capacity that it could be, which is, you know, where you're shopping, how you're shopping, how often you're shopping. Can you make clothes? I'm afraid I can't, but there's many talented people that can make their own clothes, reuse fabrics. You've got amazing brands out there like Christopher Rayburn and Mother of Pearl that are, and so many more that are just, Phoebe English that popped up here a second ago. That whole collection was her talking about taking offcuts from all the other designers over London, which I thought was genius, and then taking all of those offcuts and stitching something together with it. So yeah, I would say that it's affected me in the way that I'm kind of more conscious about how I shop, where I shop, and definitely how clothes are made, because actually quite a lot of people are not joining up kind of everything that's going on in the world with fashion and how we can just be better with everything, basically.
I'm sure you've whetted the appetite of many graduates who maybe do not necessarily want to have a fashion design label, but they do want to work in fashion. So if somebody wants to get into the whole area of fashion film, digital video production, what would you advise? How to get sort of a first step on the ladder?
Yeah, I think, do you know what? I think there's so many more ways now than perhaps were around when I was kind of looking for it. I think there are so many different places that people can contact, and you know, even now people are direct. I used to, you know, tap out emails trying to contact people to get into TV, and when we started the company, I was emailing and calling and using the phone, and now, you know, you just look around and you kind of find maybe a brand that you want to work with, or you know, wherever you want to look. There's so many touch points of trying to get in contact with people. So, you know, a lot of my friends are still getting work out of just direct messaging people.
Yeah.
Maybe not hounding them, but direct messaging people through social media accounts.
Or to find a young graduate or a young designer, for example, who's doing a first collection and offer to do a film for them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. During lockdown, we actually spoke to a lot of people, a lot of designers, where we were just, talking them through how to film at home, what equipment have they got, taking 1,000 Zoom calls, just helping people to come up with ideas of how they can go and shoot, or they can shoot stuff in their garden, or, looking at what equipment that they've got, and looking at economical ways of kind of doing it. So, I think there's lots of ways for people to be able to get in touch with or get involved with the industry, write to people, call up companies, email them, see if you can, it still works, work experience, going on to shoots, going and working in kind of designers' studios that they're interested in. That way it still carries
offering
a lot
to
of weight.
take pictures for nothing.
Exactly, just going and shooting themselves and going and kind of getting it into it themselves.
When you watch some of the fashion content that comes up on Instagram or YouTube, where, basically anyone in the front row with a phone thinks they're Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg. What are the mistakes that most people make when they're trying to do a video at a fashion show?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. It's phenomenal the amount of people that are on phones, though. We have that discussion all the time, and we always direct some of our shooters to shoot the people shooting the show, because obviously years ago you'd have a lot more people, kind of engaging and just looking and writing your notes. But now everybody's doing it with phones so that they can share it instantly. So actually one of the challenges for us is, how do we film in a different way, in a meaningful way, and gather that content to turn it into something that people on the front row can't. But it's just instant, isn't it? Everybody's there, everybody can share it instantly. They can say they were at the show, they can share that, and it's amazing for the brand. I don't know how they're doing it wrong. I don't know, there's so many different ways to kind of shoot. I think the thing is now, we have to keep our eyes on content and what, much younger people than us are doing. Because it's changing very quickly. Technology is changing very quickly. Cameras are changing. Samsung phones are just amazing. To be able to go out and shoot content immediately at an amazing resolution that you can put out and it looks completely professional. We have a challenge to kind of, see what everybody else is doing. And sometimes the imagination and creativity of people that are fresh into the industry and what they're shooting and how they're shooting, how they're grading it, how they're colouring it, how they're stitching it together is pretty amazing. So we try to watch as much content as we possibly can over all social media, a whole different level of brands, from high to low to high street to... We watch a ton of content that isn't even fashion related often, because we want to see what everybody else is doing. And once you start to explore, obviously, the internet, it's just... you can lose yourself into...
I've been amazed in the last couple of years at the way some designers are using film in a really sort of astounding way. I'm thinking particularly of what Gareth Pugh's done, where he's worked with a sculptor, and the mannequins are kind of... Well, it's difficult to see where the statue...
I know what you mean.
And the mannequin, the model begins.
He's an amazing example of one of the most creative designers. I still think, actually, one of his shows many years ago in the V&A was the most arresting show. When they had a huge screen like this and they showed a film.
The devil and hell and all the...
And the football chanting, and it just sent absolute waves all the way through my body. And the silhouettes that he cut along that runway, we had this beautiful side shot where you could just see the most phenomenal shapes. It was hugely visually arresting, and he often collaborates and works on films with Nick Knight.
And
people like that. So he's somebody that really sees the importance of film, and then filming, obviously his show is important, but he really turns to film to create something that's a complete expression of what he's trying to achieve and what he's trying to say with the collection. So there's so many amazing designers out there that are creating something that is arresting.
Now, you've done a couple of collaborations with Graduate Fashion Foundation. We're going to be seeing a film in a minute. What is it about graduate fashion that excites you? When you sort of first came to an event, did it make you go, wow?
Yeah, constantly, always. And I genuinely do think that the talent inside this country is phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. You know, you look around and we've got some kind of collections and clothing around us on mannequins, and you look at each and every one. There's something different, there's something new, there's something creative. There are old ideas that come back and are twisted and are shaped into something different. There are different materials, colours, vibes. We've got, you know, kind of so many different looks, as you'll see in the film when we play it, but there's always something super, super exciting and creative and fresh about it. Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, some of the outfits are absolutely phenomenal.
Now, last week we worked together on a digital presentation film for the class of 2020, and it was really sort of based on capturing 60 different looks.
Yeah, just 60.
No pressure. But it was kind of the behind the scenes and all the things that went together.
Yeah.
How did you work as a team? We can have a look at it.
Yes, we will, and we've got you a little behind the scenes film that we just popped together actually, which is about a minute long, and then obviously we can get to the finale piece, which is lovely.
This was at the Foreign and Commonwealth offices. I was here actually, right?
So, yes, so we took a phone call and gathered that there were almost 60 looks, just the 60. It's fine, we can shoot it in a day.
Just the 60.
No worries, that's fine. So we start with logistics. I'm a bit of a demon for logistics, and how on earth are we going to do it? And then the rest on set will be absolutely fine. So we obviously have the absolute pleasure of being given amazing looks, amazing looks. So we worked together on choosing models, and we had this most amazing location at Coal Drops Yard, and so we took a recce to see where we can shoot all of these amazing outfits and what would look great where, and what models we're going to put in. I think we had six models. Yeah, 6 models. So it was a lot of changing. So it's kind of run like military precision on getting them in all safely and shooting at distance. And we actually had 3 crews that day, so 3 different cameras with 3 different producers that were running around, and amazing graduate fashion week team kind of running around and rallying everybody, lots of hair and makeup going on, and really sticking to time so that we could shoot it all within a day. So we were kind of running all over the shop, and between 3 shooters, I guess they almost shot 20 looks each, and we divided it all up. So and then we created a glorious film to help them celebrate, and it just... honestly, it does look
Well, let's have
amazing.
a look at the finished product.
Yay!
The standard of work that I've seen, both on social media and in judging the digital awards, is extraordinarily high.
I'm constantly amazed by the wonderful talent that we produce here in this country.
What you've been through the last 6 months or so, really amazing credit. Congratulations, really well done.
guys are the future. You are the future of fashion, and it's up to you to create.
Wonderful, Lindsay. Really nice.
There is.
Was there
Love to
any
see it up there.
particular outfit that you remembered?
Oh, absolutely all of them. The colours that just keep popping,
Yeah.
the oversized, the everything. I mean, honestly, it is phenomenal. People are phenomenal and hugely talented at such a young age. To be creating looks like that already, and to think that, you know, plenty of those students in there are going to go on to become amazing brands, big brands, based here, based abroad, dressing plenty of people, taking retail shops, taking online stores.
Yeah.
You know, it's incredible. So they are the beginning of the next wave of, hopefully, who will be shooting in kind of 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, the future of fashion.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Very exciting. And they've just done an amazing job.
Lindsay, it's been great talking to you about Duck Productions.
Thank you.
I've got one question before we wind up. Don't you ever want to shoot or direct or produce a full-length feature, say like a James Bond or a Mission Impossible or a rom-com? I mean, do you have in the back of your mind an idea that you will do something like that one day, maybe based on fashion, but with a hunk in it as well as gorgeous models?
With a hunk in it, is this you vying to take part in this film, I think? We'll have to write something for you. If you want to be acting alongside a hunk, we'll take note. I think the documentary that we're filming right now, the one that will come out...
Sorry, the what?
The documentary that we've been filming with Amy.
With
from
Amy,
Mother of
yes,
Pearl.
yeah.
Yeah, that's plenty for us to be getting on with right now. We're in the stages where we've almost finished shooting. We've got a couple more shoots to go. Something in Austria and something over that the guys are doing now in Turkey at the cotton farms. And it's being edited together as we speak. And that will be a full feature-length film, so 90 minutes.
And when will that come out?
We're looking at probably the beginning of next year, so that will be shown theatrically. It's been sold by a sales agent at the moment, and we're just kind of closing on our financing. So that's super exciting. That will be a full feature length, and that's been 4 years in the making, so I think we might have a break after that and concentrate back on the digital stuff, because we've been doing both at the same time, which is mesmerizing. So yeah, that will be a really important film for the fashion industry, I think, to see that insider look at how Amy works. She won the designer fashion fund, the Vogue Designer Fashion Fund collection,
right,
a couple of seasons ago, and the £100,000 that she was given as
the
a winner.
Fashion Fund,
She's basically popped into her brand to see if she can make the most sustainable collection possible. So that goes from tracing everything, the materials, the buttons, the everything, all across the world. So we've been shooting in kind of wool farms in Uruguay and chasing materials in Peru and kind of all this amazing stuff. And I think it's a real eye-opener in looking at how designers can look at the materials that they use and where it's made. And actually, you know, it's so super interesting that like a t-shirt or a bra has traveled more countries than most people before it gets to you. So I think, yeah, there's a real kind of emphasis with what we're trying to do, and the fashion industry want to take that on board as well, which is to look at how we're kind of designing and that we're designing much more consciously. And that's, you know, that's at the forefront now of every designer that we kind of work with, and I'm sure it is with all of the graduate fashion designers, that's so amazing. So for the generations now, it just becomes the first thing that they think about.
Well, I think the interesting thing is that because of the pandemic, COVID-19, and when lockdowns sort of suddenly struck like a hammer blow, so many of our graduates were suddenly divorced from their work. Their final year collection that they were working on, they either couldn't get into the colleges because they were closed, access to machinery, access to you know, computer equipment, tools, accessories, whatever, was just cut off. And they had to really, I think, you know, just delve into the absolute depths of their imagination and creativity to make those collections come together. And it's sensational. They used all kinds of materials, you know, anything that was to hand.
I think when you're pushed and you kind of face those circumstances, people dig even deeper. And maybe, you know, it sounds cheesy when people say it gives people time to reflect and look at it and maybe take some time out or look at things differently, but I actually think a lot of people have. And maybe it's given them more time for more creativity. I know it's been super difficult and they've been halted, the same as, you know, everybody in the whole industry. It's been so difficult. But actually, if you just look at what they've achieved, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah, I mean, we're absolutely bloody brilliant, aren't we? In the UK, we're just so creative and so talented, and we dig super deep when we need to, and we produce what we need to. It's exciting.
It's fantastic. Thank you very, very much for joining us and watching. I hope you've enjoyed it and learned something exciting about fashion. We're very excited here, and there are various events going on at Coldrops Yard in King's Cross over the next 4 days. We have a showroom, we have portfolios, we have this wonderful exhibition. So if you want to know what fashion, the future of fashion looks like, this is the place to come with Graduate Fashion Foundation. And big thanks to the class of 2020 because you have succeeded, you've climbed Everest. And that's amazing. Good night.